am having, Mac.
With the most recent release of Sonic Frontiers, I think it's best that we talk about my top 10 favorite Sonic the Hedgehog games. This list will be comprised of games that I find the most enjoyable to replay and play in general. That said, expect to see some spin-off games, mainline games, and all kinds of Sonic the Hedgehog games.
I'm always up for a challenge.
So without further ado, let's get to number 10. The first game on this list at the number 10 spot is definitely going to be Sonic Heroes for me. I feel like there's a lot to love about Sonic Heroes, like the story, the playable characters, the gameplay itself, and in my opinion, this is the hardest Sonic game that I've ever played. When I first got this game, I had it for the PS2, and for whatever reason, it just never worked. But then I got it for the GameCube about 10 years later, and I was able to see it at its fullest glory. I love the levels and the level design, but there are a couple things holding this game back from being in the top 5. Like, for example, I'm not a huge fan of the camera sometimes, and also the slippery controls. Even still, Sonic Heroes is a great way to spend your afternoon. But you know what else is too? This video's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. Here's an interesting fact that you all need to know. There are billions of people on this little blue planet called Earth, 7.5 billion to be more precise. But imagine if all of them, including you, played Raid Shadow Legends. Well, the cool thing is, you don't have to imagine it, you can play it right now. I've been playing the game lately, and I gotta say, my favorite places to play the game are during first dates, in the shower, and of course during class lectures, because who needs those, am I right? I'd rather be playing Raid because it's just more fun. Anyway, this month Raid has a massive update dropping with a brand new dungeon and the introduction of Artifact Ascension. Quick tip, earning oil after battling through the Sand Devil's Necropolis is the best way to enhance your artifacts. Speaking of enhancing things, you can enhance your collection of heroes with the addition of a bunch of new champions. You can even get festive with some of these new holiday champions, and the Bastion even got decorated. Best of all though, Raid even created a legendary champion based on the MMA and pro wrestling star Ronda Rousey. You can get Ronda for free right now by just logging into the app. The process is super simple, just log on to the app for 7 days between now and February 20th and Ronda is all yours. After unlocking Ronda, I recommend using the special promo Raid Ronda to get a whole bunch of stuff to help level up this legendary champion. This gets even easier when you participate in the Christmas event, the 12 Days of Raid. Download Raid in this video subscription, copy your player ID in the game, and go to 12daysofraid.plarium.com. From there, enter your player ID and begin the festive 12-day adventure from December 19th to January 10th. There is even a new minigame where you can win in-game and real-life prizes like the holiday-themed champions and Amazon gift cards up to $1,000. You can even get some core rewards too if you're an existing Raid player. Just head to 12daysofraid.plarium.com and you will receive a unique holiday promo code. If you have not started playing Raid yet, click the link in the description of this video or scan the QR code on the screen and you'll get unique bonuses worth $30. You can get the free champion Ana, 200,000 silver, an energy refill, an XP boost, and an ancient shard so you can summon some of the awesome champions as soon as possible. New players can get all of this and more within the next 30 days, and once you're in the game, come and find me using my name SONICSTA, and perhaps you can join my clan. At the number 9 spot on this list, I feel like it rightfully belongs to the first classic Sonic game that I ever actually completed, and that was Sonic Mania. This game had to crack my top 10 because it was not only the first classic Sonic game that I ever actually completed, but it helped me understand why people love classic Sonic games so much. Admittedly, I'm not the greatest at 2D side-scrolling games, but this one was actually really fun for me because of all the multiple playable characters they had to offer and the different gameplay styles they also had as well. Not to mention, as someone who really didn't play any of Sonic 1, 2, CD, or 3 prior to playing Mania, every single stage felt completely new to me. So I know a lot of people were complaining that a lot of stages were just kind of like reused or whatever, but these levels felt completely fresh to me, and they still do now. Not to mention, I'm not sure how big of a factor this is for me, but I love the visual presentation of Mania. Everything is just so colorful and vibrant, and I feel like I can't stop playing it every time I pick up because it looks so beautiful, and it is so beautiful. At my number 8 spot is Sonic Generations. Now, this one is kind of low, and it's only due to the fact that I just think that every single game I have above it is either more fun to me or just better. I assure you this placement is absolutely no knock at Sonic Generations. It is a fantastic game and one of the best made Sonic games, but for me, it's just not as fun as all the other ones on this list. However, that in mind, whenever I go back to replay Sonic Generations, I only look forward to playing the modern Sonic levels. I really don't care about the classic ones very much. And that's no knock at the classic levels because I think those are actually pretty good, and it is pretty cool to see classic Sonic implemented in like a modern stage like Crisis City or something, but as far as that goes, I really don't care. I just want to play modern Sonic and boost through everything. I know this placement has to be a little bit surprising to people considering the fact that a lot of people have Generations as like their top 5 Sonic game or something, and I feel like I'm a little different in that, but it's still a great game nonetheless. At my number 7 spot, and this is purely just for nostalgia and fun that I have with it, and it's not because it's like a perfectly made game or whatever else, I'm just saying this as a pretense because I know a lot of people are going to be in the comments talking about my number 7 pick and being pretty dismissive. But I have Mario and Sonic at the London 2012 Olympic Games. As you may or may not know, my introduction to the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise was the original Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. Although that one's not my favorite, it still holds a special place in my heart. That said, the one that I think is a lot better than that and any other Olympic Games game is the London one from 2012. I have such fond memories of playing this game with my family and my brother and just spending so many hours just doing Rhythmic Ribbon or whatever other game mode we can find in this game. Out of every other Mario and Sonic Olympic Games title, I feel like this one definitely has the best minigames by far. But even then, that's not why I have it so high on this list at my number 7 spot. It's truly just because this is a crossover between Mario and Sonic, something we've never actually seen before, and even though it's Olympic Games, I still would rather have that than nothing. One day I do hope that we're able to get more than just the Olympics, but if this is all we can get, then hey, at least it happened in the first place. At my number 6 spot is Sonic the Hedgehog 2006. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a horribly made game, it was rushed, the development sucks, everything about it is just horrible. There's so many glitches and lags, whatever. There are many reasons why this game is so high on this list for me, and I feel like I have to admit one of them is truly just because it was the first Sonic game that I ever finished, so nostalgia plays a huge factor in decision making here. This is the era of Sonic that I fell in love with. This is the one that made me the big Sonic fan that I am today, and 06 kind of led that charge along with Sonic X. This was a game that I played incessantly and would always continue playing it until, I don't know, maybe about a couple months ago when I actually got kind of tired of it. And mind you, this was a game that I've been playing for at least 10 years up until this point, and I just now got tired of it. The reason why I was always so fond of Sonic 06 is because it didn't seem like anyone was really missing from the character lineup. There were so many characters that were playable, and so many characters involved in the story that it just felt so dramatic and climactic. As far as gameplay goes, I wouldn't say it's bad, but it could definitely be better, and even then, I still found much enjoyment in it. That said, I think the game's biggest flaw to me has to be when you play as other characters like Tails and Knuckles and Blaze. They all just feel so weird to control, yet Sonic and Shadow feel smooth, and Silver kinda stinks too. That said, no one can deny that this soundtrack is probably the best Sonic soundtrack we've ever gotten, and I included Sonic Frontiers when thinking about this. Now we have reached my top 5, and I'm going to start off with something that might be a little bit surprising to some of my, older viewers who have been watching my channel for a little while now, as this result was even surprising for me. At my number 5 spot is Sonic 3 and Knuckles. You see, the reason why this is so surprising to me is because I had never really played a classic Sonic game up until this year, so after playing all of them in the Sonic Origins collection, I have to say that Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the best classic Sonic game there is. After playing this game over and over and over again, you get the point countless times, I have yet to find a single flaw in its gameplay, or anything else it has to offer. Going in chronological order in the Sonic Origins collection, I realized that the games just kinda kept getting better and better as they went on, and Sonic 3 was like a huge leap into the best direction possible for me. Oftentimes I find myself, if I ever do go back to play Sonic Origins again, it's only to play Sonic 3 and Knuckles. That's it. It's not to play Sonic 1, 2, or anything else on there. It's just Sonic 3. And again, this is coming from someone who really was not a fan of the classic games at all. So going back and playing this game, it feels like it just came out yesterday because of how fluid it feels. It's so perfect. The only reason why it's not my number 1 spot or any higher on this list is because of the connection I have with every single other game on this list, and because they're more fun to me in general. That said, for me, I feel like my top 5 is very interchangeable. It can go just about any way depending on the day. Moving on is Sonic Unleashed. Now, this was actually higher on the list, but some things happened, and it had to get bumped down a bit. But Sonic Unleashed is a spectacular game, and to me, a lot better than games like Sonic Generations, which I think it's often compared to. Like I said earlier, one of my biggest complaints with Sonic Generations is I just really wasn't a huge fan of the classic Sonic levels. Like, if I were to ever go back and replay the game again, I would never touch those. But when I play Sonic Unleashed with the Werehog levels, I actually find a lot of fun in those. Those are a really good time to me. Like, I feel like I've said this many times in many different videos, but using the Werehog and learning all kinds of different new combos and new moves to use against the enemies you have in the game, it just felt so satisfying and rewarding. I mean, you could easily just sit there and button mash your way through the game, but then you'll probably not enjoy the Werehog the way you should. But I feel like when you actually spend the time to learn the moves and understand the combos and master them even, you actually get to understand and appreciate this design. The combat itself is not without flaws, but for one of the first times this franchise has ever done something like this, oh yeah, it's really good. And then there's the boost levels, which I think are the best boost levels that Sonic the Hedgehog has ever seen. You see, Sonic controls so well in this game, and it feels like I can do just about anything whenever I'm playing as Sonic. It feels like I'm just gliding through air every time I just play one of these levels. It feels so fantastic. No part of the boost levels feel automated to me, and boosting as Sonic actually feels like I'm just ramming through enemies, but it feels like I'm doing it with a purpose. It doesn't feel like a glorified tempo run. It feels like a Sonic game, and everything a Sonic game should be. And much like Sonic Heroes, I feel like Unleashed is one of the harder Sonic games to play, because a lot of it actually is trial and error. You will not S-rank any of these levels in your first playthrough. It's just not possible. That said, you'll sink many hours into the game just trying to get better, and boy is it so rewarding. My biggest gripe with the game though is the Sun and Moon medals. Collecting them really isn't that fun. It feels like a chore more than like an activity that you can do in the game, and you have to do it in order to progress forward, and that's just kinda lame. Anyway, Sonic Unleashed is a top tier game and everyone and their mom should play it, and especially the Xbox 360 and PS3 versions, or if you can get it on a newer gen console, that'd be great too. At my number 3 spot, I'm honestly just going to talk about number 3 and number 2 here, because these are the most interchangeable out of everything on this list, because this is really hard for me. I can't rank Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. These two are like my favorite Sonic games, and putting those two against each other is like putting my kids against each other if I had them. You know, I don't have kids, but like that's something I would never do, you know? Either way, the biggest draw for these games to me is the multiple playable characters and the amazing story both games have. These games are arguably the rawest in the entire Sonic the Hedgehog series, and I'm not talking about just the gameplay or the story, I'm talking about everything the games have to offer. While I personally have to prefer Sonic Adventure's gameplay over Adventure 2's, there's so much about Adventure 2 that could easily just overcome that of Sonic Adventure. Like for example, SA2 is the introduction to my favorite Sonic character ever, and that is Shadow the Hedgehog. But again, I'm not going to compare them too much, I just really do believe they deserve spots on this list that are somewhat equal, and 2 and 3 interchangeably is the best I think I can do here. Now like I said earlier, these games were actually higher on the list before, and then something happened. And that something that happened was the release of Sonic Frontiers, my favorite Sonic game and one of my favorite video games of all time. Much like many of the games I have on this list, I only have one bad problem with this game, and that's the final boss, which I think could be corrected with DLC, so it may not even be a problem in the future anymore anyway. That said, I feel like just running around as Sonic in any of the Starfall Islands is euphoric in itself anyway. And if that weren't enough, you took a formula that I love so much in Sonic Unleashed and gave it to modern Sonic, the combat. I mean, come on, this is over the top amazing. Speaking of amazing, can we talk about the boss fights in this game, which I think are the best in any Sonic the Hedgehog game. Every Supersonic boss fight felt like a final boss battle, and honestly, the first boss in this game kind of outdid any other final boss I've seen in any Sonic game. What I love about Sonic Frontiers is it feels like they kind of took the era in which I fell in love with Sonic and just tried to make it better. They really tried hard with this game, and I have to say, I can see the passion just bouncing off of the screen. Frontiers is setting up for an amazing new era of Sonic the Hedgehog, and I'm all for it. I'm so glad to say that this is my favorite Sonic game, and I'm so glad to actually believe that in my heart rather than just spouting a bunch of nonsense. This game is amazing. Sure, I'm not too fond of the Cyberspace levels as all of them just kind of felt like weird boost levels, but everything else this game had was just so much fun. Now obviously Frontiers isn't perfect, but I still love this game, and that's all I gotta say. But now I want to hear from you. What are your top 10 Sonic the Hedgehog games? Let me know in the comment section down below, I'd love to see what you guys have to say. Anyway, thank you all again so much for watching. This is Sonic signing out. Have a super blessed day, y'all.
Why are you playing that trash?